So we're going to look at Hank as if we're going to buy him, go through the whole soundness examination to see if he's worth buying. Looking at his background, just knowing a little bit about him myself and talking with his owners, there have been no past injuries or health issues that would be of concern when considering him as a viable option. He is dewormed quarterly every year and has had the 5-way vaccination as well as rabies vaccination regularly. He has not gone anywhere, so he hasn't had a recent Coggins test. He has been out on pasture with access to a salt block, but that's really it. He tends to keep his weight well, so he's not given grain or any other supplements. And then looking at him out in his pasture, he's out with another gelding, just content, calmly grazing, active, looking around when things are happening, but otherwise happy with his grass, and he looks well fed as well. So no vices were noted out in the field. No pawing, no cribbing, no weaving or anything of that sort. And he appears to stand square on all 4 feet. When looking at him in the stall, which he's not regularly in, he paces a little bit and he's digging, but mainly this behavior was noted more around him being somewhat buddy sour since he was with another gelding out in the pasture and no other horses were around when we were in the barn. Otherwise, there was still no weaving or cribbing or anything of that sort, just normal horse excitement when being taken away from his buddy. So we moved on to looking at his temperature, pulse, and respiration as we're getting ready to exercise him and see what his reactions to that are and how well he does traveling. And really there was nothing to know. Everything was normal. So we went straight into having him walk in a straight line to and from me. His legs are straight, and his hocks are appropriately turned in like they should be. There really wasn't anything to note. He did well at the walk. He planted his feet well and put his weight evenly on all 4 feet, so he's not favoring any joints or limbs, anything of that sort. He looks well. Moving on to the trot, you notice that he does toe out a little bit with his front feet. I mean, it's not extreme enough to affect his performance in any significant way, but it was something to note. Otherwise, there wasn't really anything that I saw that was alarming or a means of concern. So overall, during this test, he traveled soundly, So we decided to have him lunge for a few minutes at the walk, trot, and canter. So there really weren't any abnormalities noted. I mean, I didn't see anything of concern during the lunging. I mean, mostly it was to get his heart rate and breathing up so we could see how he would react, his body would react to recover. And really, he did well. Checking him out after that, there was no unevenness in his heartbeat or respiration. He did have some nasal discharge, but it was clear, so there really weren't any worries there. He did recover fairly quickly from his exercise, so he seemed to be a perfectly healthy horse. Looking at his eyes, he sees well out of both of them, and there wasn't any discoloration or blue spots. Nothing that I saw that would be alarming. Moving on to his mouth, I didn't note any cuts or scars with his teeth, his lips, his tongue. Nothing to be said about that. The teeth had been regularly floated, so that was easy to see. There was no overbite or underbite, any kind of jagged teeth or anything like that. And then looking at his hooves, his feet are wide, but other than that, there's no really irregularities noted. He is shoed on his front feet, mainly because he carries his weight in his front end. I mean, talking with the owners, he shoed in the hind feet as well when being shown or going places, but when he's just out in pasture, he really just needs his front hooves shoed. And that's mainly because his feet are somewhat more sensitive than others. It has nothing to do with the way his feet were trimmed. He wasn't, trimmed too short or anything like that. No abnormalities seem to have been hidden by his shoeing. So I didn't notice any issues with his joints while watching him, so I really didn't feel like I needed to do flexion tests, so I decided not to. I could tell somewhat of his flexion because I did lift up his front and back feet when checking them, but other than that, I didn't see any issues, so I didn't feel like I needed to take the extra time to do those flexion tests. And really that was all because he's a gelding, it wasn't a stallion or a mare where you need to do extra tests, if you're having a brood mare or anything like that. So he was pretty easy, and I didn't see any causes for concern, so I decided to end my soundness exam there, and decided that he travels soundly, and yeah, he'd be an okay horse to buy.